Hello, everyone. What a fantastic day of programming we've been witness to here today. It's been an absolutely amazing to kind of see the breadth and coverage that this proud and great club that we call our home gets to experience and see on a daily basis. And this next section is exactly that. It's a bit to celebrate us and celebrate the fans and what it means to be a fan in the modern age. Just before that, though, my name is Jamal. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at the British Library, helping to broaden the British Library's connections and experiences with the hyperlocal community that live in and around the physical building. But more importantly, I'm a third-generation Arsenal fan. Was exposed to that by my grandfather. Both my parents are Arsenal fans. I'm an Arsenal fan, and hopefully one day my kids will also be Arsenal fans. It's actually amazing to see kind of the growth and trajectory of Arsenal. When I was growing up in secondary school, it wasn't as popular to be an Arsenal fan. This is what is often referred to as our banter era. So in the hallways in school, fighting off Chelsea fans and United fans, it was really difficult. So that fighting spirit that Maya talked about earlier was really kind of alive in all of us in those school hallways. But yeah, something that I'm happy to see the youngsters don't have to deal with today, and that's really amazing to see. And then someone also asked, all that misery. Why did you never change your team? Why could you never switch who you were supporting? And obviously, those of us in here know that was never an option. There's been a lot of talk, discourse online recently about supporting your local team, and even if I wanted that way out, that was never an option for me. I'm a Camden boy, born and bred, so Arsenal's literally my local team. So some could say that was never really an option for me, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Being a fan of this great club is what has brought us all here today, and to explore a bit more about what that means to kind of explore that, to live in that world, to create culture and content online. Can I please welcome to the stage Boyd Hilton, writer, journalist, and host of the Footballistically Arsenal podcast, who will be chairing the panel and introducing the rest of our guests. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We've got a fantastic panel. We've got Alan Davies. Hello. We've got Fenwick and Max Giles. Tom Curren and Clive Palmer, the legendary Clive.
Not enough chairs.
Need enough chairs. We're missing a chair.
We're missing a seat.
Wow. That's a good start.
I'll stand behind Clive.
Yeah, you two can sit on each other's lap. Yeah.
Well, I can sit on Alan's lap.
Yeah. Amazing. Tom.
I'm not standing there.
No.
I could stand. I could stand behind the podium.
I'll go and get a chair.
Yeah, they'll go and bring a chair.
Okay.
This is brilliant.
I'll crouch. I'll do the Ashley Cole rowing.
Oh, thank you. Heroic, Tom. There we go.
Oh, look, a blue chair. The special blue chair.
Thank God for that.
Blue one's nice and red. It's okay.
Thanks to you all for being here. I feel like I'm the Kepper, of the podcasting world, throwing the ball into my own net. While we've got David Ryers here everywhere who kind of do podcasting, do fan-based media, magazines, fanzines, blogs, etc. So we're going to be talking about all of that and what it means and what we think about it all. Just to introduce the guys, Alan, of course, he's a fantastic comedian, writer, author. His books are on sale in the foyer. Yeah. Actor.
Don't be shy.
Ed and Max are very interesting. They are best friends who've been going to the Arsenal since they were kids and started making unofficial Arsenal T-shirts 10 years ago under the brand 1886. They then started a fanzine called Poison Lasagna. Here it is, it's brilliant.
Wow,
in 2018, which is now on issue 5. They've never done something like this before, i.e. a panel talking about things. And they have a stall outside in the foyer, which is selling Alan's books, among other stuff. Clive is an absolute living legend. He does the Arsenalvision podcast. He was on my podcast, years ago, maybe even 10 years ago.
Maybe.
So I'd like to think I invented him. But in fact, it's the Arsenalvision that he does all the time, and he's one of the most perspicacious and wise of analysts of what goes on with the Arsenal, I would say. A legendary cult figure. And Tom is an independent editor of an independent football magazine called Scouted. And in his spare time this season, he's been writing an Arsenal blog called Red Story, which I've been reading and is excellent. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Alan, I think it's safe to say with the Tuesday Club that you were one of the pioneers of club-specific football podcasting.
Yes.
How did it all start? Why did you decide?
We were the best.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And then other people started doing
Oh, who were they?
it. And that was annoying. We started, a guy called Mike Lee,
Yeah.
who is a really lovely bloke, and he had a little company called Playback Media, and they were doing the Spurs show. He's a Spurs fan.
Yes.
And he wanted to set up some other club podcasts. He had this idea that podcasts could become quite a thing. I'd never heard of a podcast. And he said, come down to our office. And we did a thing called It's Up for Grabs Now. And I asked my friend Keith to do it with me, and he didn't understand what a podcast was. He said, no, I can't make it. So I did it with Tyre Papula and Ian Stone. And we went there for, this was 2009, I think. And we did It's Up for Grabs Now in Mike's office. And then we didn't really like having to go into Mike's office at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. And we've got another friend, Chris, who never speaks. He's called Silent Chris. And he's a radio producer and podcast producer nowadays. So we started to record it in his living room and uploading it ourselves. And that was when we called it the Tuesday Club, inspired obviously by the famous Arsenal drinking club. And we started doing it there, and we stopped for a bit. I think the best time, actually, the early days were great, and then the best time in some ways was during the pandemic, and we started doing it again every week. And there was no football on. That was better when there was no football on.
Yeah.
Or we'd review books like Eddie Hapgood's autobiography and stuff like that, which we loved doing. And we became very aware that there were a lot of people just on their own in flats, and they would be emailing us saying, I'm going out of my mind. Please don't stop doing this once a week. It's something, you know. And so that really, in a way, that made us think, oh, people actually really like this shit, you know. And this season we've been back to going every week, and we've been enjoying it very much, and now we're absolutely cacking ourselves just like everybody else. So we're trying not to feed into the discourse of fear that's around Arsenal at the moment.
It's hard after last weekend.
Hard,
yeah. It's hard.
It's hard. It's terrifying.
What was the impetus behind doing it, bringing it back this year again? Was it because you didn't want to miss out on this possibly historic moment?
I don't know why, really. We started doing it a bit last year. When Mikel first came in, I think all of us at one point or another on our podcast thought he should get fired. And I really thought he was behaving like I couldn't watch him on the touchline. And I realise now, we were kind of late adopters of Mikel, that all it really represented was how much he really cared so much about what Arsenal were doing. And it was destroying him that it wasn't working. And I know exactly the day when I got on board, and it was when we played Crystal Palace away in the beginning of the 22-23 season, I think it was. And Saliba started, Zinchenko started, Jesus started. Ben White played at right back for the first time. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it all worked.
Yeah.
And then I realised what he'd been looking for, searching for all those years. And now, you know, we feel kind of consumed by love for the players and the team again. It reminds me very much of the George Graham days, that everyone hates us. They don't like us because we're hard. They don't like us because we can do anything. You can't have us. You can't outplay us. They hate it. They hate it. What they want is for us to fall. And we might.
Still time.
And it reminds me of those, because when George was in, that was my time. I was in my 20s, I was going away all the time. We were up and down the country, going away, going everywhere. That year, especially 91, going to places like Roker Park and all. So it reminds me of those days, and I want that outcome, you know.
Yeah.
I want that outcome in May. I would like to shut my eyes and wake up in May.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
I can't. That Everton game, I nearly died about 8 times. And I just want to get to May. And I couldn't give two shits about these cups. Who cares? You know, maybe you win a cup, maybe you won't. This is the league. 7 games to go. All I can think about is Bournemouth. I just feel like Mikel Arteta, but without any of the football genius.
So you didn't care too much about the Carabao Cup?
Oh,
defeat?
cared a lot, because it was so stupidly annoying.
Yes.
The way they fucked it was so annoying. But it's hard. I feel like there's his absolute nemesis in the other dugout.
Yeah.
You wrote a brilliant thing in your blog about yes, you. About facing up to the monster that made you and trying to defeat the thing to conquer the, and he kind of related it to a storytelling technique of going into the woods to face the monster that you have to defeat ultimately. And for Mikel, it's Pep, and he's there, and he has to face up to him, and he made him, and he is what he reveres in him, and he looks at him. And Arsenal froze in that match in the face of Pep. And it was like a dagger in your heart, wasn't it?
Completely.
And I want him to win the league while Pep's still there.
Yeah.
I don't want Pep to leave at the end of the season and then we win 5 in a row. It would be so annoying.
Yeah. While we're on Man City, I love this sentence from your most recent blog, Tom, where you said regarding City, they operate in an emotional black hole, a void of feeling, a total blanket of apathy that's antithetical to all the things that give football meaning.
That's the sort of stuff he writes.
Yeah. Tom, why did you decide to start? I mean, you scouted is one thing, you were doing that for a while. That's like all about literally scouting young players and letting us know who they are and kind of theories about them, etc. But the blog, on Substack, etc., that's new. And why did you decide to do it? And why did you decide? How did you think it would be unique as opposed to all the other stuff out there?
I didn't know it would be unique at the start. I think I decided to write about Arsenal specifically because I'd been working with analysts and quite serious football people for a long time. And I have quite, like you just read, maybe literary sensibilities that some analysts kind of are like, there's only so many like Lord of the Rings references you can make in an analysis piece before people are like, calm down, And so I wanted to write something in a space that I knew I could maybe push the boundaries a bit with like my creative intentions and stuff. But obviously I thought that no one would read it, and now I'm sat on a stage and you've just read a sentence I wrote to a bunch of people. So when it's small, it's like really fun to take risks and like call Manchester City nasty names. I've done much worse than that, by the way.
Oh yeah, sure.
I did have one thing about Chelsea that I had to delete because
really?
It's maybe a bit much. But
you can tell us now. We were friends.
Well, it was something to the effect of I live in Battersea. It was something to the effect of like, if Stamford Bridge gets nuked, I'd die, but like I would be okay because Stamford Bridge would be gone, something like that. And then, you wake up the next day and you're like, I'm a professional with relationships, and I just, so that one's in the bin. But
did you have like? It's the kind of blog, by the way, which begins with a quote from Kafka as well. Metamorphosis last week. Did you have inspirations? Kind of growing up that inspired you to write in general and to write?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always come at football from quite an authorly direction. I always wanted to write books and movies and things, and I kind of fell into football because it was like I wanted to be a writer. So I needed to find something that people were making money writing about, and that happened to be football for me. And obviously I felt very strongly about Arsenal and the other bits I was writing about. But yeah, again, that comes back to like why I wanted to try something that was outside of like maybe the professional sphere, is that I could maybe take a more authorly, literary approach to things. Be a bit pretentious, and because I didn't have an audience, so you can be really pretentious when you don't have an audience. And now I have a small audience, and like I'm still being pretentious.
Oh yeah.
Now people are making comments about it, So
You've got to carry on being pretentious. That's a key.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah,
I will.
good.
I can't stop now.
No.
I've backed myself into a corner.
Yeah.
A really pretentious corner.
Yeah. No, I
have to keep going.
Don't worry about it.
But no more Stamford Bridge
nuclear attacks. No. Okay. Yeah. Clive, I was talking about you. I think it's fair to say that Arsenalvision, which Elliot, Yankee Gunner, as is known on social media, started, and you are a key member of the team, and you have your, like, even on Friday night, you Friday Night Clive, you give your benefit of your latest wisdom. But I think in general, everyone I talk to about you, and you've become a very famous analyst, is kind of blown away by how you managed to find the thing, you analyse the thing that has gone wrong, for example, in the Carabao Cup final a week ago, or the thing that we did right in terms of when we win, which is most of the time. What is it about your brain that you can analyse stuff in that way? Do you know? Have you worked it out? Is it just experience and kind of coaching experience, etc.?
I just think it's a total obsession, really, basically with the team and the club. And my every waking moment is thinking about how we play, what we're trying to do, what we can do to be better. So my background has always been almost a football coaching background. And so my work has led me to sort of leadership type things. So I recognise Arteta probably from day one because of the way he spoke in that very first interview. I thought he understands what he's trying to do organisationally. So my background has been more people and coaching, and that developed into writing. So back in the sort of, I'm sure it was 90s, before the internet really exploded, there was something called the Arsenal mailing list. And it was a group of people that used to write. I used to do something called Clive P. Thoughts, and I do an assessment of all the players. And you've got a reputation. We all met at Wembley, and people like Arsblog, he was on that list. I even think Amy might have been on that list, you know. So, and so that's how I started, and then I developed into, my writing was all right, but then I developed into talking. And it seemed to go okay, and one of my best friends sort of rang me up, and you know your mates, they take the mickey out of you and sort of thing. And he rang me and says, sit down for a second. He says, you can talk. You need to talk. And I thought, he's not joking. So I went on with you, went on with a couple of people, then arrived with Arsenalvision. And where it sort of exploded for me is that we have 4 or 5 people and we're all different. You've got a couple of Americans, you've got Tim Stillman, who was on earlier today, who's got such a historical view of the club and been to almost every game for 20 odd years, and he's super committed, home and away in Europe, etc. And got myself, which is a bit more of a coaching mentality, a people mentality, like any team, it's about the blend, isn't it? It's about not about one person sort of thing. So when it comes down to it, it's just football, isn't it? And to me, that's not anything but not work. It's football, right? It's our lives, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that we do like one podcast a week at most, but the Arsenalvision now is pretty much every day, isn't it? It's something every single match you preview, then you do your half-time report, your full-time report, your post-match early thoughts. It's relentless. And has that surprised you? I mean, in a good way. Has that surprised you just how all-consuming it's become?
It has. I think if you find a platform that works for you, and when you sort of meet people, and it's interesting what Alan said about COVID, for example, that's when I realised that something's happening here. You know, I remember meeting the guys when it was just coming out of it. I met some guys in the Tollington, an Irish guy from Cork, and he came up to me and he said, "Clive, can I bring my dad over?" And I thought, "Of course you can." Well, who am I? Come over, go on there. And there's 2 twin brothers and a dad. And one lived in Tokyo, one lived in Cork, one lived in London. And he said, during COVID, we'd have a call, and we'd listen to your podcast and we'd discuss it, because you kept our family together. Wow. And I thought, bloody hell, I need to watch what I'm saying here. You know what I mean? Because it's having an impact. And I think that impact is important, you know, and although we all love our football, the ability to try to talk and choose the right words without destroying the reputation of the club, something that I hold dear. We can all see when a player plays bad. We all know. We're not special. We all know when a player plays bad. But you haven't got to kill that player, because next week you might want him to play well. We've got 7 games to go, is it, in the league? And people are not having certain players. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. We're 7 games to go. Let's talk about him in the summer, you know, because we're so close. So that's where I am with it, and it seems to work.
Do you have? Do you know if the club listens to the podcast? Do you have any feedback about that ever from anyone, any of the higher ups at Arsenal?
They do listen. I've been on, like I said earlier, when I work with the foundation on certain charity events, etc., and I've met people in the club. I interviewed Odegaard for his contract one time, again, and they asked me to do that. For me, I do the charity work at the club, and I know they listen, but I wouldn't change what I say. And so not being too close to people is important, so you're really genuine about what you see. You know, so, and I have the opportunity to get close to people, but I sort of hold back a bit because you might need to say something, and if you say something to upset somebody, then that's just the way it goes, right? But yeah, they do feedback, and they do value the fact that the reputation of the club is intact. We're just human beings that love the club, and you're going to say some things that you may not want to, you don't want to say, but you have to because it's what's happened.
Ed and Max, you've got kind of two interesting kind of lines of Arsenal-related media. You've got your stall out there, you've got your own, you've created your own unofficial merchandise, and this fantastic fanzine as well, Poison Lasagna. What was the impetus for you two to start it? When did you decide to do what you're doing, and has it surprised you just how kind of renowned you've become?
Well, we were making T-shirts first, and because we kind of liked the T-shirts that we grew up seeing on kind of Avenel Road and Highbury Hill, and felt that had kind of disappeared. And I think that was to do with a lot of legal stuff as well, with the old crest and.
But also the sort of content that it'd have on it was something like...
Yeah, it was just funner stuff.
Tony Adams, like
holding cockerels and strangling cockerels, and it just felt like it had all been a bit kind of like... It just got a bit safe, so we started doing some T-shirts which kind of reference those things. And that was like, I think we started thinking about doing that on a coach to Hull away. And we both go home and away. And then a few years later, we made with the fanzine, we made a film about the birth of the football fanzine movement and about protest in football, where we interviewed an amazing Charlton fanzine called Voice of the Valley and a now dead West Ham fanzine called Over Land and Sea. And that really, like, speaking to all of these people, The End, edited by Peter Hooton, who was the lead singer of The Farm, and how this stuff came out of wanting the nationwide reputation of fans to change from people just thinking they were, like knuckle dragging hooligans, which is obviously way before we were going to football. We're 89 babies. Yeah. So we're raised on that.
I was one of those hooligans, by the way.
Yeah. And so, we thought after making that film that like we should start a fanzine because we were really inspired by these guys. And just that print has as much as like you guys are heroes to us, but it has a legacy, and there's a lot of immediate fan content, and which fanzines used to provide that you'd read, the Gooner, and you'd read about the last game, but now you're getting that stuff immediately. So we were the first new Arsenal fanzine since the Gooner in 1987.
But we were very inspired by Save a Gooner. Like, we used to read the Gooner, and I do remember, going to home games and this fanzine seller shouting out, "Get your Gooner, get your Gooner." Yeah. And there was something sort of cool about. We never really bought programs. We would buy the fanzine because it felt sort of not illicit, but sort of. A bit more on the edge, and a bit like the fact that it wasn't the club's voice was kind of interesting. Yeah. It was more the fans' voice.
I actually once chased you down Holloway Road with issue 1. Did you? We used to have Pete knows, Scottish Paul, who used to run Pybury Corner. He gave us, when we started issue 1, gave us a table outside the front, and we didn't sell many, but. We saw you go past, and I was like, "Oh, Max, there's Alan Davies." I was like, "Should I go?" And you were like, "I was like, okay, I'm going to go." And I ran and gave it to you. I don't know whether that. They go for eBay for £2 more than. Oh, really? So they go for seven
It'll be at home then somewhere.
eBay.
It'll be there.
I hope it didn't go in a bin on Holloway, but so and then since then we're issue 5, and it's been an interesting journey because there's been kind of ups and downs. Like the club gave us a cease and desist, for example, So that, and now we actually kind of work with the club in some facets. Right. So it's quite an interesting.
That's really, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, how your relationship has changed with the club over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think since the Cronky Out protest in the Super League protest, which we obviously it was a totally organic thing. We encouraged it to our pretty humble following, but we were making flyers and handing out Cronky Out things, and just after that we got a cease and desist.
Timing was fun.
But then also since then it feels like Arsenal's relationship with the fans and working and collaborating with the fans has really improved. And as Clive was saying, I think being when they understand that you just love it and care, and that having that kind of healthy separation, and there are people at the club as you get to know people there that are serious fans, and that just benefits everyone. So once there's been a really kind of positive relationship that's kind of blossomed, that kind of came to a head when we did the TIFO for the North London Derby with our friend Dan Evans. And
you've got a replica of outside on your stall.
Yeah, which we're selling prints outside of. But that was, after the PSG semi-final disaster one, which was oddly just our club's crest.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like everyone hates it, and you're like,
everyone took the piss out of it.
Cannon that everyone wears on the shirt. And I'm amongst other people. We ranted against it and said let fans do fan things. And then I think, from that there are people at the club who are engaged with the stuff.
So Max, are you official TIFO advisors to the club now?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, they'll reach out at certain points, but it's obviously with other fans as well. That's what's nice.
It's with the supporters group. So it's quite a nice, a focus group now of. So it's not on everyone, but there's the club has come on leaps and bounds in terms of its kind of interactions.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because also in terms of the merchandise and your T-shirts and the clothes, they have an amazing number of collaborations, don't they now, with fashion houses, independent ones and bigger ones, and they seem to put out a different line of clothing every other week.
They're putting us out of business.
Is that a worry?
Well, I mean, they're sort of doing so many collabs that, the reason we started out originally was because we felt
they weren't doing anything.
That they weren't doing anything that was very interesting, or they were just sort of sticking something, doing slap on a logo and nothing more. But so that was the inspiration for us to starting. We're we can't buy anything we want to buy in the Armoury, so we should make it ourselves. But now they're doing much more all the time with interesting people as well. So maybe there is less of a need for us, or we just have to start doing even wilder stuff.
Yes,
basically. Yeah.
That's a challenge for you. Yeah. I'm sure you can meet it. Do you take an interest in? I'm going to ask this to all of you actually. An interest in what other people say about Arsenal? Outsiders. Alan, you referred to it briefly before of how everyone hates us, etc. Do you quite like the fact that everyone seems to hate us now, and do you pay any attention to, old school media, mainstream media as it's known, or do you pay much attention to other podcasts, other fanzines, etc.?
I'm always looking for humour. That's what I like. So if I clock some humour, then you guys are good for this. I enjoy that. I don't mind if they hate us because it means we're where they want to be. And I love how it's killing people that we're still at the top of the league. Yeah. It's killing people. And I just so want us to be there at the end of this season. I can't even tell you. I know everybody's the same. I totally identify. You wake up in the morning and I said, OK, I better check to see who's injured. All I want to know is who's injured and when are they coming back?
Yeah.
And who are we signing in the window? And I want actual facts. If it's not a fact, shut up. Stay out of out of the world of noise. I just want the information.
It's really hard to find out the extent of injuries, isn't it? I always feel like they underestimate it massively, and every Arsenal player gets injured is 2 months longer than it was supposed to be originally. Yeah,
and it feels like how much information you give about that stuff is part of this overall strategy of you know, how the team goes through the season. So is Ødegaard going to play at Southampton or at Lisbon or against Bournemouth? Please. But they're not going to tell you that, right? They're not going to tell you that. It used to be quite unusual to give the team out half an hour before the kick-off. That was quite unusual, and now it's absolutely standard. I went to the England game this week, and I was checking for the team. My 10-year-old was going, who's playing? Is Madueke playing? So they won't even tell you the team for a friendly now. Everything's so locked down.
Oh, you went last night to the
England, England.
For you.
England
to Wembley.
Wow.
Second time in a week.
Yeah.
I had such PTSD. The whole thing was so traumatising. And going down, they call it Olympic Way now. Anyway, going down there with this kind of Blade Runner sound of welcome you to visiting Wembley Stadium. I go, this is exactly what you were saying to me last week. You go, oh, no, don't smoke, don't drink, don't run about, go in the fan park. Don't try and get the tube after it. It'll be a living nightmare.
Yes.
My 10-year-old's going, oh, God, they're saying the same things, Dad, as they said last time. Thinking he's traumatised now. What am I doing to him? I should have left him alone. Just don't. He wanted to support Man City, you know, that he wanted to support Man City. And just a few years when we finished 8th twice, and Mikel just couldn't get it right, and he was in the back garden, and he's going, Grealish, Sterling, Aguero. That's going, you can't support them. Why not? I said, because you can't, OK? That's it. Why not? Because Manchester, you don't even know where it is. Okay? And then he wanted all right, can I have an England shirt then? Yes. Who do you want on the back? Kane. No, you can't have Kane on the back. So it's hard. I know people here understand, and I know these guys understand what it's like to be so deeply attached to this organisation, this club, this kind of completely in the fibre of who you are. And it affects you. I mean, really, nothing brings me to tears more often than thinking about Arsenal victories or thinking about Highbury. Amy Lawrence is a good friend of mine, just gave me a present backstage because I was 60 recently, and it's a black and white frame picture of Highbury from the clock end. I mean, I'm welling up thinking about it now. Going there as a kid, I had a shit time at home. My dad was terrible. My older brother's a Tottenham supporter. I mean, I couldn't wait to leave the house at the weekend, and they couldn't wait to see me shut the door behind me. And then I'd come in from Loughton on the bus and the tube and go to Highbury and go into that place, and just loved being there. I'd go on my own, go away on my own. I went to Anfield when I was 14 on my own, going on the travel club train, and they go up the train with a bin bag full of baps. I mean, shit you not. A bin bag. And they'd say cheese or ham. And this bloke would put his hand in the bin bag. And he'd get a bap out and he'd throw it. Wow. And you had to catch it. And that would say, I remember getting into Crewe. We were going to Liverpool and Manchester, I forget. Getting into Crewe, and there's another train going the other way, with other fans, or I think we were somewhere once, and there were Wolves fans in the train on another platform, and they can see, and then some people, maybe you, wanted to get out. Let's get out, come on, we can do it now on the platform. We're going to be here for ages, let's get out. And another people go, don't get out, the train will go. I don't care if the train goes, we're Arsenal. They sort of live this life of obsession, a total kind of emotional attachment, an obsession about this thing.
So is it cathartic for you to do the podcast?
Doing the podcast is about trying to have a laugh and trying to be funny. But we're all comedians. Me and Ian and Keith have known each other from the comedy circuit for years. And when I started doing it, I hadn't done stand-up for years. And being able to be funny about it and kind of let off steam and try and make people laugh and talk about one another and our own stupidity and superstitions and frustrations, and also with an awareness that we've never been in a dressing room. You know, if we meet a player, we become all tongue-tied. I went to the foundation dinner the other night, and that's where I got the tickets for England Uruguay.
Oh, okay.
Made a donation to the foundation. And Calafiori came and sat at our table. I was like this. Calafiori's here. Oh, shit. How How are you, Ricardo?
That's because he's the most
Couldn't be nicer.
He's the most handsome man in the world.
He's gorgeous, but I wasn't attracted to him. But he's such a nice fella.
Yeah.
And Victor Gyökeres was there, and I've been lucky enough over the years, I've met Kieran a few times. They seem like, I don't know, but they seem like decent people that they're good characters, that they conduct themselves well on the pitch. You know, we've hardly had a yellow card, we've had no red card, we don't give away penalties. They play the game properly, with discipline, with trusting one another. They've built this thing between them. And like Martin was saying earlier on when he was talking to Amy, you are so close, you know. This is it. This is the moment in your career. It doesn't matter if you're 16 or 36. This is the moment in your career when something can happen that will change your life. You're this close. And they built it and built it and built it over years, really, now, seasons. And we're all watching them thinking, this would be so unjust if that corrupt organisation with the mysterious charges that lead to nowhere. They've been paying people off the books for years, and everybody knows about it. Everybody in Manchester knows about it. Half of Manchester's employed there. And can we just get it over the line, preferably on goal difference on the last?
Yeah. Clive, is it cathartic for you to do the podcast?
Doing podcast, I don't know if it's cathartic, because sometimes when you lose twice. You've got to talk about it to everybody else. And everybody, well, with me, they're sometimes looking for me to calm them down. And I often wonder who calms down the bloke who calms everybody. Yeah. So that's the life that I've chosen for myself. I think I resonate so much with what Alan said there about, you know, the commitment, the obsession. I was at the foundation dinner as well, Alan, actually, and it was a very enlightening evening. You saw the whole first team squad there, the very best of the club in one room. It really was enlightening. The players are just a dream. Jesus and Martinelli at my table, and had a chance to speak to Gabriel Jesus, and I'm thinking all the times I've slaughtered you for a dodgy touch, and you're such a nice guy. Talk about his family back in Brazil, and it is very humbling, and I can't describe to you the quality of some of their characters. It really is, like, it's almost too good, you know. Really, and Mikel has total control over that group, you know, when they leave, etc. And his authority in the club, you can just see it, you can feel it, and and you often teach your kids, you know, if you work hard, do the right things, you'll get the rewards you deserve. We've worked hard, we've done the right things, and we're here now. And we just need those rewards, you know, and for the people that work so hard inside the club and outside, who've taken a lot of stuff for 20 years, I just hope everyone gets that moment. I want it with everything in my being. And I too want to wake up in May and it will be over. But I said earlier on today, if you do get there, I will not be calm. You know, I will not be calm. I will not be responsible, and it'll be a really special moment.
Yeah. Tom, do you find it's part of the reason you started writing this blog, this Substack, because you wanted to get it all out there, all of your emotions, all of your feelings about Arsenal?
Well, I use writing for that purpose anyway, and it is helpful to be able to think out my thoughts in a way that's not going to immediately go to Twitter and get me cancelled, you know, which is maybe more likely if I allowed myself to do that. But yeah, it is a way of thinking through things for me, but I also try to make it quite. I'm really interested in the stuff that these guys were just saying about the way that football makes us feel is so intense, and so it's like a quasi-religious fervour we enter, right? And I'm quite interested in just capturing that rawly and putting it on the page sometimes. I know if I listen to Clive before I start writing, it's going to come out too sensible. You know, I can't be too sensible. Sometimes I need to get the madness on the page. But it just depends on the game, I think, actually, and it depends how I feel and whatever I think the most interesting feeling or story is, I like to chase that. So after Wolves, I've just been laying down on my sofa, face down for half an hour. I'm 30 years old. someone help me, you know. Same after this weekend, actually. And then other weeks it will be, I want to tell like a particular player's story that I think has gone under the radar. Like Noni Madueke was, when I started writing about Arsenal, one of the first things I wrote that people started taking notice of was I kind of juxtaposed like, everyone's been talking about Eberechi Eze coming home, and it's really beautiful. And like, obviously, he was rejected by the club, and it's taken him all this time to come back to us. But Noni Madueke is from Barnet, like he's just from down the road. And because he had come from Chelsea, I think people were quite sniffy about him. And I felt that was kind of unfair because I think his story is kind of remarkable. You know, he went to Eindhoven at 15 or 16 or something, when English kids were not going abroad at all. And so sometimes I think I wrote that after his performance against Nottingham Forest at home when he was incredible. And sometimes that's a story for me. So I think the beautiful thing about like blogging without an editor is just that I can pick whatever moves me on the day I'm going to do. And at the moment, it's very much like, I think you said something great on your recent podcast about everyone just feels like they're just careening down a slide at all points, and we're just smacking into everything on the way down. Like, I'm just perpetually terrified at the moment. So I think my writing really reflects that. Like, but that's the point, right? That's where we're at right now. And if I can capture that at all, then I'd love to. But
Max, do you think that what you do, for example, you're talking about the inspiration you got from fanzines, you know, back in the day, but this is a very different kind of magazine to those, isn't it? This is to the Gooner, one or down 2, 1 up that I remember contributing to. It's much more, I don't know, it feels much more creative, much more visual, all of that, and kind of more. It's trying to capture the authenticity of the voice of you guys as Arsenal fans. Is that key as well to it, that it's all about authenticity in a way?
Yeah, it's about trying to, well, what we were interested in, I mean, there's so many platforms which covering the games themselves, and, you know, podcasts, endless podcasts on how the game played out and what the tactics were, etc. Whereas we were kind of have always been more interested in kind of the culture around it and the fans and what it means to be an Arsenal fan, and all the weird and wonderful people that are Arsenal fans, and like trying to give space to those sort of stories that are kind of about the weird and wonderful, really. So and what kind of we like about the zine is that you can pick up our issue 2 and it will be just as relevant now, really, because it's not talking about the specific games or specific seasons as such. But it's also quite just important to capture these stories about fans, because they are what make up the club, really. And that's what we're most interested in.
Are you wary of getting too close to the club, do you think? After the, you went from Kroenke out to getting involved in the TIFO, etc. Is that a concern, or do you just think, well, we are where we are, the club is, compared to a lot of other clubs, ownership, etc., it's not too bad?
Kroenke in.
Kroenke in.
No,
have you got a Kroenke in T-shirt?
Just outside. No, there's definitely, we think about that all the time. And it's like you've got to work with them in the right way that does the right thing for the fans. And if we can try and steer them to doing, making some better decisions, then that's great. But I think you've got to keep the ability to be critical, because if you're just doing everything with them, then you're just going to stop doing that. And they've been getting better, but there's still plenty to be critical about, and they need those voices. So I think there is a danger of just being getting too close, but a healthy distance. But yeah.
Just don't want the club to bullshit you, do you? That's what we used to. What it was that drove us mad when we moved to the Emirates, which was upsetting for everyone, but wow, it looks beautiful. And they kept saying that there were 60,000 in the ground every week.
Oh yeah, they've stopped doing attendance.
Yeah. And we were sitting there going, there aren't. Look at it.
Everywhere. Yeah.
People aren't coming, you shits.
Yeah.
Because we're not winning, because you're not buying enough players, or this is all that, or the other.
Yeah.
And they kept telling us, and that, again, it just felt like Blade Runner. This isn't true. Just say things that are true, or don't say anything. And that was, and if they're not saying the attendance, that's better than saying the wrong attendance.
Yeah.
You know? And then if you feel like you can trust the club, you can trust them, you trust the manager, trust the players, he's doing his best, they're doing their best, they're not bullshitting us. Then you feel on side. Then you feel proud again to be part of the club. You know, the feeling of, I'm an Arsenal supporter. Again, if you have a problem with that, it's because you don't like us winning, but you can't criticise the way they conduct themselves, the way they behave, the way the players behave. It gives you want to feel proud. You don't want to be ashamed. You don't want to be a Chelsea fan.
Or a Man, or a Man City fan. Yeah, we haven't got 115 charges at all, have we? I'm going to throw open to the audience in a sec. But let me just ask you all, how are you feel? Just how are we all feeling right now? I mean, we've alluded to the fact that we're all fucking terrified. Sorry. But we all think we're going to...
It just has to be. Like, waited so long. Like, you know, I mean, we were lucky enough to grow up in those glory days, and we were always reminded by, you know, my dad would say, like, it has never been this good, and it might not for a very long time. And that was true. So it just has to be. It just has to happen. I don't know what I'll do if it doesn't.
Clive, my guru, is it all going to be all right in the end?
Well, I don't know. Walking down Wembley Way last week, I wasn't so confident. You know, and that game was a bit traumatising about how it played out. But I've recovered since then. You have to remind yourself it's just one game.
Yeah.
And the great thing about football is there's always another one where new pictures and new conclusions can be made. I think I'm so interested in what happens coming forward. I think culturally this could be something that we've never seen. So we're a similar age, right? I know the experiences that you've had on certain days, and what it was like locally, and what it's like in London when we win. What it's like. I remember I didn't go to Anfield, but I was there for the next 3 days in North London. I remember what it was like, and it was amazing. Bank holiday money, brilliant, right? So, but it'll be nothing. This time will be nothing like that. It'll be 50 times bigger, because the club is truly global and it's massive now. And not only will we be able to feel it, you'll be able to see it in here. People around the world enjoying this, and I think this is going to really push the club to a new level. And so I want it for everybody, really, so we can all see that.
Tom, are you in your mind's eye, you already got your blog sorted out when we finally do this? Or is that kind of getting too ahead of yourself?
I think that is maybe too much pressure, to be honest. I mean, I've thought about this for a long time, you know, and like the past 2 years as well, like at the start of the season, you think about how you would react if it went the way you hoped it did. And then this year it just feels so much closer. And I think you have to feel like we're going to do it, or what's the point of being here, you know? I was going to say something else about like, oh, yeah, we'll let no. Like, we've got to do it, because otherwise we might as well all go home. And it's really not worth thinking about, to be honest. So I'll see you all at the parades. Yeah.
Tuesday Club special from you when it happens?
Oh, yeah, it will be a very, very long podcast. We're not all spent, broken men. Please God.
Please God, yeah. Okay, let's have some questions. Yeah, sorry, I haven't got... there's a mic coming down 1 second. We started late, so it's all right if we do another 10 minutes. Is that okay? Yeah. There we go.
Is it on? Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. Really interesting. It's been a great day, actually. So this is a bit of an obvious question, I think. I think, personally speaking, I'm a big fan of Mikel. My one criticism of him is that he can be overly cautious, just at the point where he should go for it. So Sunday might have been an example of that. So my question for the panel is, the big game at the Etihad, if you were Mikel and it was your team, how would you approach that game? Because in some respects, if we get a point there, we'll probably win the league. If we go for broke and lose the match, maybe that's the worst of all scenarios. So how would you play that game, especially after Sunday, when it feels like we've been schooled and we've been kind of dealt a rather chastening lesson by his old boss?
I feel like this is one for Clive, but yeah, go on.
Well, the first thing I do, I try and play 12 players. That'll try to help us out. I think, to be honest, I'm not being funny, but the Bournemouth game sets the table for the City game. The Bournemouth game is huge, and that'll allow us to approach it. I think sometimes when you are exposed tactically and exposed in front of the nation at Wembley, you can only respond to that, if you've got anything about you. So I think it was so easy to see in hindsight what we didn't do. And so that's very fixable, isn't it? It's not as though it's something we can't see. So, and if we can be a little bit more bold, put more people in the back line for them and just push forward a little bit more. And I think it's sometimes, I've said this many times, sometimes if you want to be the man, you've got to beat the man. At some point you have to. And I don't want to go there thinking we get a draw, we'll be with. It is time to beat them. And with Alan saying earlier on, I want Pep to be here when we do it. This is very important. I don't want any points taken away from them. I don't want nothing taken away. I want to beat it with no asterisk and beat them properly. And so we've got to have that fire in us, haven't we? How do these set of players want to be remembered? That'll be my team talk. And so go and do it, right?
Anyone else want to add anything? Or?
I agree with Clive.
Yeah, I agree with Clive.
That's a good T-shirt.
Collab incoming. Yeah.
Guy there. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, a general point before I ask my question. Do you remember how when Max Darman was bearing down on goal from the halfway line, how we all felt? We were celebrating yards before he got there. I'm a deleted fan. I'm already that way about this season, but it sounds as though that's not a common consensus. But I have a question for the panel. This is about the players. I remember I was struck by Clive's description of the character of the players at the foundation dinner and so forth. And on the one hand, that's impressive, but on the other side of the coin, I had flashbacks to Graham Souness sneeringly referring to the players as sons-in-law, very nice hair, bouquet of flowers behind the back, that sort of thing. And I want to ask the panel, do you guys see anybody who is not a typical son-in-law in that squad of players?
Yeah, Ben White. I was so angry last night. And Ben White's coming to play for England and some people are booing him. And I thought, yes, take that back to the club, Ben. Take that back. Because that's where you're loved. Yeah. And you're loved there. And one of the reasons you're loved is because when John McGinn kicked the ball at William Saliba and it fell to you, without hesitation, hit it as harder than you've ever hit a football, directly into McGinn and knocked him over. And it gave me everything, that. So there is that in them. There is that fight in them. And if you see Saliba fighting Haaland or you see Gabriel at any point in any match, they've got that streak in them that they want it and they're hard enough to win it. You have to be so... I remember talking to Graham Ricks once years ago and he said you have to be just so hard when you cross the white line. It is so nasty out there. I can't even tell you. And in those days, there weren't 48 cameras. There was so much went on. And that's what they have to be. They have to be like steel, mind like a steel trap when you cross that line and get it done. They're the best team in the league. They know they are, and they just need to get it done. And I think they do have. I think some of them would be terrible son-in-laws in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not too nice anymore, are they? I mean, that was the criticism. Yeah.
Well, I don't think so. And I met Big Gabby at that night, and he was very gentle, shook my hand. But I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not Haaland, am I? So yeah, there's in his day job, he does his thing, right? So I think we are being characterised as a team that can play in different ways, and that's why Sunday was so strange that we didn't adapt. You know, we have the physicality, we have the speed, we also have the ball playing. We're a little bit fatigued at the moment because the league's so attritional, but football's so attritional. Watching the England game last night is just similar to watching an Arsenal game. It's like that now. You have to get through it. So yeah, I'm not worried about them when it comes to that side of things. Years gone by, we're a little bit Spanish in midfield, you know, very small and technical, and people breaking our legs. Then we've got a problem, haven't we? But not anymore. Not anymore.
Thank you. From the front here.
Excellent hand raising.
Yes, excellent hand raising. An excellent kind of jacket as well.
Thank you. That's on. I have a question for the panel. So, who do you think, in that Man City game, say we have to win and we get the league, who would you say as a pivotal game changer in that game, just to finish the whole season? Who do you think would be the one player in our squad who would take us over the line?
Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah.
You've got no worries about the youth of today.
Yeah.
No.
Very astute.
Take lessons.
Absolutely.
I think Declan Rice has been the leader on the field.
Yeah, Declan Rice.
He's the one that they fear. He can outrun all of them. He can do anything. And we've got those centre-backs behind him. We're formidable. So I think if those three boys are all playing and they all turn up with their A game, they're in trouble. They're in trouble on their own pitch, and I think they know that.
I'll give it to Bukayo as well.
Yeah.
I think people are... He's had quite a difficult year, but I think people forget, like, he's such a clutch guy, and, like, he will really, really want this, and I'd back him to, you know, you get a penalty, 98th minute or whatever, give it Bukayo.
I'm not worried.
I prefer Big Gabby.
Yeah,
Big Gabby corner, 97th minute would be good.
Yeah. On the penalty spot, waiting.
Yeah. I would go with Rice. I mean, I'd love to say Damon, but I also just don't want to create anything more around that. That was just the perfect moment, and we just leave it like that. Rice.
Clive?
I would go Bukayo as well, because you think about his journey, you know, what happened with England a few years ago and what he now means to the new generation. I'm talking to my wife and everyone that comes to her coaching classes. Everyone's got a Saka shirt on, you know, so for the young generation, I think he represents something that massive, you know, locally and globally. So for him to have a big moment when he has probably carried us in his rucksack for 4 or 5 years, now we got here, it's like, okay, I'd like him to have it, you know, that's why.
That's what I meant to say by 98. I don't wish him to have to do that, to be clear.
Thank you so much for that question. For all your questions. We've run out of time, I'm so sorry. But we've got the quiz coming up next, which Alan's going to be involved in about 10, 15 minutes' time, I think. Oh, yes.
Thank you all so much. Incredible to hear the passion of being a real fan. And just a little quick reminder of what it was for one person to wait 18 years. Hopefully it's going to be good in May. And I just want to say I agree with Clive. We just have a little watch of this little clip.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the panel. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much.